Gotta get my computer going. Oh, you already did that.
No, that was for you.
Okay. That was good. All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see. Pastor Todd here? There you are.
Shall we pray? Lord, it is such a privilege to live in this community and to have the community that you have entrusted to us, and I thank you for the leadership. I pray that you guide them in decisions this evening, and I ask that you continue to guide and direct the direction of the community that we have invested so much in. Lord, I pray that you would be with our country at this time, that you would guide our government, and that they would make decisions that are going to be best for its citizens, and Lord, that you would let an end to some of these difficulties we're seeing faced. Right now, come to an end in a speedy way, Lord. May we continue to be one nation under God. In your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And that was Pastor Todd Forrest from the Fountain Hills Christian Center. Thank you for joining us today. And a roll call, please, Beth.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Here.
Councilmember Yates?
Present.
Councilmember Boucher? Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Hanson? Vice Mayor Elsie?
Here.
And Councilmember Dickey is absent tonight.
I think we have quite a few proclamations, and just going to have just a brief statement on my part. We had a wonderful visit from our German exchange students, and I was very pleased to give them a tour of the town hall, give them some gifts from us. They love the town pin, and they're very excited about being here, and they certainly take good care of our students when they travel over to Deerdorf. So we wanted to show them the best possible welcome, and we did. They were very happy to come here. And let's see, now we'll start with our proclamations. I have 4 proclamations to read. The first is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas home should be a place of warmth, unconditional love, tranquility, and security. And whereas for most of us, home and family can indeed be counted among our greatest blessings. And whereas, tragically, for many Americans, these are blessings that are tarnished by violence and fear. And whereas women, men, young children, and the elderly are all counted among the victims of domestic violence. And whereas physical injury and deaths occur and emotional scars are often permanent. And whereas law enforcement officials, shelters, hotline services, healthcare providers, the clergy, and concerned citizens are helping in the effort to end domestic violence. And whereas we must recognize the compassion and dedication of these volunteers and professionals, applaud their efforts, and increase public understanding of the important problem. Now, therefore, I, Linda M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Fountain Hills, and urge all citizens to observe this month by becoming aware of the tragedy of domestic violence and supporting community efforts in working towards its end. And Councilwoman Dickey is not here, but she sits on the Maricopa Association of Governments Committee on Domestic Violence for Fountain Hills. My next proclamation is Fire Prevention Month in Fountain Hills. Whereas the town of Fountain Hills is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our town. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires kill more than 2,500 people in the United States in 2011, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 370,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, where fire departments responded to more than 156,000 fires annually between 2007 and 2011. And whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen. And whereas unattended equipment was a factor in 1/3 of the reported cooking fires. And whereas 57% of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. And whereas children under the age of 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burned in a cooking fire. And whereas Fountain Hills residents should stay in the kitchen when frying food on the stovetop, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around cooking areas, and keep anything that can catch fire away from stovetops. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half, and whereas the town of Fountain Hills first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the town of Fountain Hills residents are responsible to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2013 Fire Prevention Month theme, Prevent Kitchen Fires, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now, therefore, I, Linda Cavanaugh, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2013 as Fire Prevention Month throughout the town and urge all residents of Fountain Hills to check their kitchens for fire hazards, use safe cooking practices, and support the many public safety activities and efforts of the Fountain Hills Fire Department. And I thank the Fire Department for helping us with that proclamation. Next proclamation is for the week of October 7th to 11th. It is Customer Service Week in Fountain Hills. Whereas in 1992, the U.S. Congress proclaimed Customer Service Week a nationally recognized event celebrated annually during the first full week in October. And whereas the town of Fountain Hills is committed to providing the highest and most efficient level of customer service, and whereas the town council would like to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the excellent service provided to the citizens of the town of Fountain Hills on a daily basis by all employees of the town of Fountain Hills. Now, therefore, I, Linda M. Cavanaugh, Mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, hereby proclaim October 7th through October 11th, 2013 as Customer Service Week in Fountain Hills, and we respectfully ask all citizens to express thanks for the outstanding customer service provided by town staff throughout the year. And the last one is a proclamation from our school, and it is for Red Ribbon Day, and they are having their Red Ribbon Day on October 10th. They have lots of activities going on, anti-drug and alcohol activities. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation are at epidemic stages, and whereas it is imperative that visible, unified prevention education efforts by community members be launched to eliminate the demand for drugs, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyle, which means no use of illegal drugs and no illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign will be celebrated in Fountain Hills on October 10th, 2013, and whereas business, local, national, and state governments parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, senior citizens, service organizations, and youth will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyle by wearing and displaying red ribbons on this day. Now, therefore, I, Linda M. Cavanaugh, Mayor of the Town of Fountain Hills, hereby proclaim October 10th, 2013 as Red Ribbon Day in Fountain Hills, and encourage town citizens to participate in drug prevention, education activities on this day and all year long, making a visible statement that we are strongly committed to a drug-free town. All right, and I know that they still need volunteers over at the school. So if you're able to volunteer for Red Ribbon Day, give them a call, and I know they can use some help manning some of their booths with the students. Now we have two appearances, presentations. The first is a presentation by Jim McKee, Vice President of Corporate Services for EPCOR, relating to the 2013 Chaparral City Water Company rate increase application. Here you are.
Thank you, Mayor Cavanaugh. And thank you for that introduction. I am Jim McKee. I'll just bring up the presentation. I'm with EPCOR Water. We are the owner of Chaparral City Water Company. I was here in council chambers a few months back, explained that we would be coming forward with a rate application. The rate application reflects about 6 years since the last rate application was filed. The last rate application was based on a 2006 test year. This application is based on a 2012 test year. So there's 6 years since the rates that are currently in place were set. So just a little background. We service approximately 13,600 customers in the town of Fountain Hills. We deliver 3 million gallons of water daily during the winter months and 6 million gallons daily during the summer. We have one surface water treatment plant just off of Shea Boulevard. There are 2 groundwater wells. One is in service. There are 8 storage tanks and reservoirs and 8 pumping stations. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through this because the next couple of slides get into further detail, but effectively this is the rate setting process. We came out with a notice of intent to file a rate application. That application was filed with the Arizona Corporation Commission, and it takes approximately 6 months for evaluation and opinion of ACC staff and RUCO, and they'll put forward their testimony. So the application, then the company responds to that, and at that point, we either try to enter into a settlement negotiation or we make a determination that a settlement isn't possible and we go forward with a hearing in front of the Arizona Corporation Commission. That is actually in front of an administrative law judge. And then the law judge prepares a recommended opinion and order. And once that's done, the commissioners, they'll review that recommended opinion and order, either change it or approve it with changes, or approve it without changes, or they may deny and send everything back. And thereafter, if it is approved, the rate increase will go into effect. So we filed that notice of intent on February 15th. On April 26th, we filed the rate application with the ACC. The ACC has ruled that the application is sufficient to proceed, and that procedural notice was issued by the ACC in August. So now we're into the stage where interveners such as RUCO, maybe the town of Mountain Hills, and others have to put forward their testimonies. And the deadline for interventions is actually November 1st, so there's still time. And then the intervener testimony is due on November the 25th. We will respond to that testimony on December the 30th. And on February 18th, ACC public hearing is scheduled to begin. And then, depending on the outcome, any new rates would become effective once approved by the ACC. So just to kind of give you a background, I wanted to define really cost of service. And the cost of service is the sum total of all of the dollars that need to be generated on an annual basis from the water rate. The water rates are established by us in two ways. There's a price per unit of water, and then there's also a service charge that's based upon meter size. Once we have the cost of service, what we try to do is make sure that the water rates are calculated to generate only that amount of the total cost of service, and that's what goes into effect. And it's subject to a number of rules by the ACC. They determine how much of the revenue requirement or the cost of service can be collected through the fixed service charge and how much can be collected through the variable service charge. And we try to, we do abide by all of those requirements. So some of the factors that influence the revenue requirement are the source of the water supply. So depending on whether you have good, pristine wells or whether you actually have to buy surface water, the source of that water can affect the revenue requirement. And in the town of Fountain Hills, most of the water is sourced from the Cap Canal and purchased from the Central Arizona Project. The quality of the water source also goes into that. So I did mention we had a well, but the water in the well is not very good insofar as it does contain arsenic, and that arsenic has to be removed. And we recently built an arsenic treatment facility at that well, and now that water meets all safe water requirements. But it just goes to prove that the wells aren't necessarily better than the surface water. However, the surface water is a river, essentially, and that water has to be cleaned, and that's what's happening at the Shea Boulevard Water Treatment Plant. When you've got a water treatment plant, typically the cost of the service tends to be higher than if you could pump pristine water out of nice wells, and that's just not possible anymore. Another factor that influences the revenue requirement is the physical system itself, its age, the condition, and the terrain and elevation. The age of the system is now getting up beyond 40 years old in some spots. The condition, I'm going to talk about that. And one of the other things that tends to drive a higher cost of service is the terrain and the elevation. So here we are in Fountain Hills, and it's very hilly terrain. We have to pump the water up and down. There are over 5 pressure zones in the community, and that does require power. The last thing is more the number and the spacing of the customers. So if you've got many customers, of course the cost per customer is going to be lower than if you've got just a few, because the majority of your costs are fixed. You've got a treatment plant, you've got all the pipes in the ground. The amount of variable expense that you would save if you could cut the water is minimal in comparison. The other thing that influences it is the distance between the residents. So if they're all tightly packed in a nice neat area, it's going to be cheaper to service them than if they're spaced in large lots and so on. So why is a rate increase requested? Well, the rates are established by the ACC on a historical test year. So that means we have to get through the test year and incur the expenses before we can apply for the rate increase. The current water and water service rates were based on a 2006 test year, and effectively those have been in effect since October 15, 2009. There was a small increase in about 2011 to reflect the outcome of an appeal that was filed by the former water company. But essentially the rates that you see now were determined based upon 2006 costs. Our application is based on 2012 test year or 2012 costs. Since 2006, water, labor, employee medical benefits have all increased significantly. Inflation has ranged anywhere from 13.8 to 38.7%, depending on the type of cost. In the past 6 years, we have invested more than $50 million in water infrastructure. That is the former owner and EPCOR Water to supply safe, reliable, and high-quality water in the community. And as a result of all that, we're requesting a revenue increase of $3.1 million. That'll recover costs for operations and maintenance, water infrastructure investments that I mentioned, an increase in the CAP water cost. Just as an example, in 2006, the cost of water from CAP was $80 per acre foot. We're currently paying a cost of $122 an acre foot from the Central Arizona project. Storage tank maintenance, I'm going to talk about that in a few seconds. And we're also seeing declining customer usage. So what we had done in 2006 was base the rates on a certain level of consumption within the community. If that consumption drops off, naturally the rate revenue drops down and we don't recover the costs that we had applied for in 2006. I want to talk just briefly. These are pictures of some of the things that we're finding in the system. And so on the left is a picture of a Black Holly service pipe that was crushed at the time it was put into the ground. Naturally, that pipe began to leak after so many years of service, and in fact, it should have been removed when it was placed. If it was crushed during the actual filling of the trench, that means they didn't undertake proper trench filling techniques. If it was crushed before it was placed into the trench, then that's just poor construction. The picture on the right shows a couple of things. First, you've got about a 1.5-inch service line, then being split into 4 individual services. You're not going to get very good water service in that particular case. But what was really kind of intriguing about this, and you can't see it, but down close to the ground around that dark water spot.
Would you like a pointer?
Sure.
Okay.
There is a very small dot. And what that is it is a screw that was placed into the pipe because there was a small leak there. Well, you can imagine what's going to happen to the screw after so many years. It rusts, and that leak becomes quite predominant, and all that dark area on the bottom was the leak. The picture on the right is a water valve that is seized open. When we go into a community, they have a water main break. We need to shut off the water. When we encounter this kind of thing, we can't shut off the water, and we have a lot of water loss, and a lot of people that are quite angry with the amount of water that's going over their properties. We need to get in and do that valve maintenance. The picture on the right, you can't see it very well, but it's a kind of a greenish turquoise plastic service pipe that had a valve attached to it that is more properly placed on cast iron or ductile iron pipe. As a result of that particular valve body being placed on that plastic, it resulted in a crack and a subsequent water main break. These are poor construction techniques that we've been uncovering. And just this week, we found another pipe with one of those screws that was easier to show, but I'd already submitted the presentation. This last couple of pictures, last fall, we took apart a water reservoir. We took it down. We had to wait until the fall to ensure that everybody had adequate water. And what we found inside was particularly troubling. There had been a lack of maintenance on the water tank. We had encountered a lot of rust and a lot of beams that were falling in. We were lucky that the roof of that particular tank had not collapsed prior to us going in. The picture on the right is just the exact same beam that was fixed after we had completed the reservoir maintenance. Some other things that are in there, as I had mentioned, we have invested close to $15 million, and that results in a rate-based revenue requirement increase of $900,000. The return on capital we've applied for based upon the opinion of an expert that was hired to come in, and that's an increase in the capital due to an increase since 2006 in the rate of return. The depreciation of $400,000 is essentially additional depreciation on the capital. The revenue decline is really, that $500,000 is the amount of declining use within the town of Fountain Hills. So that is driven by people becoming more conservation conscious. It's driven by people putting low flush toilets in their home, which is a good thing. It's driven by front load washing machines that use considerably less water than the models that were out 10, 20 years ago. And similarly, dishwashers have now got to meet minimum or maximum water use criteria before they're manufactured. And currently that's around, I think, 4.5 gallons per load. The last item is an increase in operations expenditures of $700,000, and that's where you get into cost of labor, cost of employee benefits. As we all know, the Affordable Care Act is resulting in increases in the benefits. We also are under-recovering our tax expense by approximately $100,000 a year. So there's a number of things that go in there. Those factors are all laid out in the application. We have also introduced a low-income assistance program to match the features of our successful programs in the other districts. We have incorporated what is referred to as a system improvement benefits mechanism. What this mechanism does is it allows us to go in and put new valves, service lines, meters, and hydrants into place on an annual basis, and as long as the ACC is happy with the prudency and the reasonableness of the cost, they'll allow us to increase the cost annually so that we can avoid large increases. Nobody likes standing here and telling you there's a 35% increase in the application. I, for one, don't like that, and I don't like standing here. We're hopeful that that particular mechanism will help us in the future. We're also looking at a 24-month deferral of capital expense-related financing costs. So we put capital into the ground, so perhaps we make a lot of capital improvements at either the water treatment plant or the wells. Those improvements go into service, and we cannot collect on those until the next rate application. In this application, we're asking for a 24-month deferral of the financing costs only, so the interest and the depreciation on that type of capital for 2 years prior to the rate application going in. And that's more to help us recover our costs. We're also including projects either in progress or scheduled. Those are referred to as post-test year projects. These are primarily projects that began last year but did not get into they're in the application, but we did not have them complete at December 31st. The Well 10 arsenic removal facility I referred to, Reservoir 2 structural improvements, planning studies, phone update, and so on and so forth. So those are all in there. We've also proposed an 18-year storage tank maintenance program. What this is intended to do is on an annual basis, we will have an amount in there in the revenue requirements. We'll be under close scrutiny to ensure that those funds only get expended on the tank maintenance program to prevent the tank maintenance issues that we've seen in the past. We've also asked for recovery of the cost of the purchase and allocation of tap water. As I said, the tap water rates increase. This is a cost that is completely beyond our control. And actually, I'm referring to the sustainable water surcharge. I'll go back up to the second point. That is, we have purchased, the former company purchased an allocation of tap water to provide for this community. And in the last rate case, about half of that purchase cost was allowed into the rates. The other half was deferred. We're bringing forward that deferral. The last one is the sustainable water surcharge, which effectively recovers those increases in costs from CAP that are beyond our control and happen on a regular basis or maybe every second year. So what does this mean? For a customer on a 3/4 inch meter who uses a median amount of 12,000 gallons, it's about $18 per month or 60 cents per day. That medium value is exactly that. That means that half the customers in Fountain Hills on a 3/4 inch meter use less than 12,000, half of them use more. So depending on your individual water use, that $18.10 will either increase or decrease. Similarly, if you have a 1 inch meter, the median volume is 16,000 gallons. In that particular case, the monthly increase would be $26, which is approximately 90 cents a day. That's my presentation. I'm available for questions. I just wanted to point out, if you want to learn more about it, you can either access our website at epcor.com/chaparral, or you can send us an email at the Chaparral rate case at epcor.com. And if you'd like, you can go up onto the Arizona Corporation Commission website and look at all the documents contained there in the docket.
Thank you. That was a good presentation. I have a couple of questions which residents have asked me to ask you, since they don't have the opportunity to do that at this particular hearing. The most of questions that I get is concerning the arsenic in the water. When you say arsenic, people are very afraid that there's arsenic in the water. And I know we had talked about that in the very beginning when you first came to town hall and you took over the water company, explain what you were going to do. I wonder if you could go into a little more detail about what you've done about the arsenic in the water, what exactly is in the water now, how safe is the water?
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
Just a few years back, about 5 years back, the EPA in the United States here came out with a minimum contaminant level for arsenic that was quite a bit lower than what it had in place at that time. I believe it was 50 milligrams per liter, Don? Yeah. 50 milligrams per liter, and they reduced that minimum contaminant level to 10 milligrams per liter. What that did was it rendered a number of water systems, it resulted in a number of water systems having to treat the arsenic, take it out of the water. In some cases, if the water level or the arsenic level was just minimally above that 10, a lot of water systems could blend the water with good water and reduce the overall concentration and still come in under the... Now, that minimum contaminant level is set by either the EPA or the health boards, and it's considered to be safe water. What we did was we came in and we noticed that the summer volume here, as I said, is around 6 million gallons a day. We were concerned about water reliability in the town of Fountain Hills, and when you look, the main takeoff off the Tap Canal is way down at the bottom, closer to Scottsdale, and then it's got to be pumped up Shea Boulevard to our water treatment plant, and I believe that's about 5 miles away. If anything happened in that pipeline, we would all of a sudden lose our water source. And we have about 8 large reservoirs where we can maintain a certain amount of drinking water. But what we wanted was more assurance for the town and its residents. And well 10 had good flow rates, but it had arsenic. So we constructed an arsenic treatment facility, and Don, do we take out all the arsenic? So we're well below that minimum contaminant level, I believe.
Could you come up and
This is Don Long. He's been with Chaparral City Water Company for many years.
Mayor Kavanaugh, yeah.
thank you.
Yes, the maximum contaminant levels have been lowered on a steady basis for the last 20, 30 years by the federal government. And, you know, the water arsenic levels that I grew up with in the day were a lot higher than they are now for the maximum contaminant levels. Because what they've done to clean up the waters over the series of years, they've been steadily lowering the maximum contaminant levels. That makes us have to treat the water more and more and come up with creative ideas to bring those maximum contaminant levels down.
So are we at that level now?
We are.
So we are.
Not that well.
Okay. Okay. The other question I have is, occasionally I'll hear from a resident that I don't use any more water than my neighbor uses, yet my bill is so much higher. And I had someone come in and I don't have a leak. What I wanted to ask is, would you, if even one home had this particular problem where they've been plagued for years, would you send someone out to check on that for them?
Most certainly.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the last question is concerning the public hearing. I know you touched on that already, but the residents wanted to be assured that there would be an opportunity for them at the ACC to testify.
They would have to register as an intervener to testify. They can provide public comment to the ACC if they want to do that.
Okay. So
And
there's an opportunity for public comment. In other words, the meeting is open, there's a call to the public. Is that the way it works?
Cheryl? This is Cheryl Hubbard. She's our acting director of regulatory and rates, and she's very familiar with the ACC process.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kavanaugh, at the ACC public hearings that are scheduled for February 18th, there's an opportunity for the public to voice their comments.
Okay.
And that goes into the record that either the commissioners read, or if they're present during those hearings, they hear them.
So they don't have to register, they just show up at the meeting and there'll be an opportunity for them to comment.
Mayor Kavanaugh, similar to this proceeding, they put in a comment card where they wish to speak, and then they're called upon to speak.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I know we had some low pressure issues in town, and I know that your operations, well, it was Mr. Stuck?
Mr. Long.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Stuck was the one that I communicated with, and I believe that that particular area that's been solved.
Yes, the one on Central Drive, yes. We did a course of data logging on all the hydrants on that street, and we seem to have isolated the problem.
Okay.
And we've just got another one, and we've yet to address that. I got that today.
Yeah, I just sent that today. Okay.
And a lot of this, there's a few other low pressure areas that we found that, and we've been telling the customers not to water their lawns and stuff, especially between 5 and 7 in the morning when they're trying to get ready for work, because it brings the water pressure lower in a house. And we found out that a lot of times when they say it's happened 2 or 3 times this month, you have a water softener, was it regenerating at that time? There's a lot of series of things. It's a sprinkler system, water softener. When all that's running, it's going to bring lower pressure in your house down. It's going to bring it down. So we're just trying to educate the public a little bit as a case-by-case basis.
But you are checking to make sure it's not on your end that there's a problem?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was the pumping trends of the data loggers that we put on the system.
Okay, thank you. Those are the questions I received from residents. Now, I'll go to the council upstairs. Any questions on this side?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Questions on this
If
side?
I may,
All
yes,
right.
thank you. Mr. McKee, thank you for your very thorough presentation. My question is simply, recently, your company held an open house at the community center. Could you share with me roughly how many residents attended that open house to make inquiries, ask questions, so forth and so on?
Councilmember Ledger, we have held, I guess, was it five events. We had an open house, two open houses very early on that were poorly attended. Even when we purchased the utility from Golden State Water, we held open houses that were very poorly attended. We have made every effort to get out. The last open house that we had last week had 2 public residents attend. We had an employee of the town attend and a gentleman from the Fountain Hills Times. We have gone out with bill inserts and bill messaging. We have had a number of hits on our website where people have kind of opened up to go in and find out more information on the rate application, but very few actually get to the site and actually look. But to answer your question, the short answer is we had 2 last week.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Anyone else have questions? Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman.
Mr. McKee, thanks again for your service and your presentation. We are good partners, and overall, health and safety are number one. But you did buy this as a business, and you had some due diligence that you went through. I'm just looking at your breakdown, and I mean no disrespect, and I'm not trying to call you on the carpet by any means, but what kind of profit margin are you getting right now, and where does this take us? Because I see the return on capital as part of what you're asking, and I'm respectful of wanting to make a buck, but when it's public utilities,
Yeah, I don't have the dollar total, okay, but
percentage-wise,
yeah, percentage-wise, we're limited by what the ACC says, and the current rates were based on a 10.5% return on equity, which means that is our return that we receive from our investment in the utility. We also are allowed to collect the debt servicing costs, but it's a pass-through, as are the operating and maintenance expenses and the tax expenses. Those are all pass-throughs. There's no additional add-on to those. So when you talk profit, it's really the return on equity, which is based on the cost of long-term government bonds plus the business risk that is considered to exist in the community. And we're not experts at that, so we hire experts to determine the amount. And that is the answer, I believe, that you're looking
Madam
for.
Mayor, follow-up question. And I'm in the construction development industry, so I'm respectful of some of the things that you find when you start digging. But during your due diligence period, could you kind of walk me through what you were expecting or how you did this? Because I would think some of those things, maybe not the screws in the line holding the dike closed, but could you elaborate?
Yeah, no, we hired an engineering firm that has offices here in the valley. They were also involved in providing services to Fountain Hill or to the water system, Chaparral City. They came in and they did an assessment for us, and of course they could only see what they could see, and in some cases they couldn't get inside the reservoirs. We did note a number of deficiencies on the outside. Nothing that made us alarmed. We thought that the system was in good condition. What we're finding, though, is that it's more the underground construction and the lack of maintenance that is kind of shocking. And for example, one of the large breaks that occurred recently involved a 12-inch PVC main. And that main was put into a trench and was actually resting on a large rock. And over time, that pipe cracked and blew out. And it should never have been resting on a large rock. And of course, we can't see any of that. But when we look at the things like the wastewater or the water treatment plant, for example, the wells, we knew that we had to invest in these facilities, and but we thought we were walking into a fairly well-maintained facility. We're just finding a few surprises now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. McKee.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is Brad Smith of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council to talk about GPAC, a public-private partnership to enhance the economy.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, members of the council. My name is Brad Smith. I'm the Senior Vice President at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about tonight just on our last year's success, as well as talk to you about some of the ways, the things that we're doing this year to guarantee success for the upcoming year as well. So I do appreciate your time tonight. Yeah, let's see if there we go. So hopefully all of you know, I mean, we're the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. We're the regional economic development entity for the Maricopa County and the area. Founded in 1989 as a regional public-private partnership. We do provide site selection services to over 220 companies on an annual basis that are looking at Metro Phoenix as a possible location for expansion. We provide a lot of labor data analysis, in terms of labor availability, cost, quantity, quality. We do a lot of other cost comparison modeling of the Metro Phoenix area versus some of our main competitors like Texas, Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Denver, Salt Lake City, and others that we compete with quite frequently. We foster partnerships with these companies that are trying to enter the market and match them with key businesses in the region and the state. And a good example is a company we have coming in next Tuesday and Wednesday. They're looking at the region as a site for a possible back office location with about 1,000 people to start, maybe up to 2,000 people. They are meeting a wide variety of employers in the area that are in similar financial services operations, companies like USAA, Vanguard, Silicon Valley Bank, and others that have similar types of operations. So we provide a lot of labor data to them, tax and incentive data to these companies, and then match them up with other like companies in the area to kind of have those companies help us on selling the region and why that company should expand here. We do a lot of, obviously, business development. We have a large research team that puts a lot of that data together for us, strategy, and additionally the marketing the region to not only nationally, areas like California, Midwest, and others, and as well as internationally. We are supported by the county. So this slide hasn't been updated. 22 cities and over 150 private sector investors. So there is a good match, not only for the cities with their monies invested, but also the private sector monies that are invested as well. So it's been a great couple of years. We broke a record for the third consecutive year. Last year we worked with 33 companies in their expansion to the market. So just as a clarification, there are a lot of companies obviously that are expanding in the area that are already here that unless there is a threat of them leaving the region, we typically don't get involved with those companies. So these are all companies that typically did not have a presence already in the market. So those 33 companies went into 11 different cities in the area, represented about over $480 million in capital investment and over 7,600 jobs, new jobs to the region. In the previous fiscal year, we also had a record year. We assisted 35 companies, about 4,000 jobs, $660 million and $70 million in capital investment, and over 3.7 million square feet of space used. We have been consistently ranked as a excellence in economic development by not only our peers, but also the site selection community and companies that we work with. We are ranked number 1 in the U.S. by New York-based development counselors, and then also ranked at number 2 nationwide by another group, Denver-based Atlas Advertising, for high performance and economic development. So these are our, obviously our investor communities, and we look forward to this year working with you and your staff on possible locations here in Fountain Hills. We're also working with right now a couple of different communities that are not previously or not currently engaged that have also expressed interest. So I think you'll even see some additional cities that would like to be part of other organizations as well. On just on a 5-year vision, this is our kind of the strategic pillars that were built around kind of guiding our activities at GPEC, and starting with business attraction, we maintain our reputation as a kind of the go-to organization for location consultants nationwide, as well as direct company contact. So we work with a lot of what we call location consultants that are working with major Fortune 1000 type companies. Typically, they engage the services of a location consultant like a Jones Lang LaSalle, any of the major brokerage firms that they may engage, their accounting firm, if Deloitte or Ernst & Young or one of those. And typically, we'll be contacted by these organizations that are looking for us to provide a lot of regional and city data for their clients to consider in terms of expansion activities. We're continuing to bolster our best practices in foreign direct investment and FDI. We're part of the Arizona-China Alliance. We have staff running that. We continue to make kind of headway in the Chinese market. And although there hasn't been a lot of foreign direct investment out of China right now, we believe that in the next couple of years there will be. And if we're not there at the table and we don't continue to make those relationships, then we'll definitely lose out in the future. On market intelligence, a lot of times when companies are looking at the market, they need to know what's here. So obviously for us, getting a better idea of the types of companies, what they're engaged in, the types of employees they employ, and so forth. We go out, we work with the communities to get a better idea of who's in their community, what they're doing, and how that regional economic activity not only impacts the area, but also who we could help attract based on that. So we'll continue to do that. On the innovation side, we continue to work with a lot of emerging technology companies. Right now, we're focused a lot on the cybersecurity and IT, information communications technology companies. Now, these companies are typically a little bit smaller. They don't necessarily engage a location consultant. They may be anywhere from 5 to 100 employees. They may contact us directly, or in a lot of cases, we are going out identifying these companies in areas like San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, wherever it may be, going and calling upon them during national sales missions that we go to on a monthly basis. So we're going after these companies to tell them about the aspects and things in the greater Phoenix area that would make sense for them to grow here. Earned media, we continue to work with media nationwide. Our goal is to see over 222 million placements or reads, and last year we exceeded that goal. We continue to send out national and international press stories, and it's a great way to get the information on the Metro Phoenix area out there without having to pay high advertising costs and national kind of marketing publications. So, and then obviously we're continue to work with the ACA, the Arizona Commerce Authority, on state and regional branding activities to continue to brand Arizona as a low cost and competitive place for the company's expansions. So obviously we do a lot of work in California. It's about 25% of our prospect portfolio are California-based companies. When they recently passed Prop 30, which is, additional tax on individuals, we saw a large pipeline of leads and interest in the area. Based on that, and I think there's a slide here coming up, we developed what we call the California 50. Right away, we had such an interest from California-based CEOs. We quickly kind of rebranded it to our California 100, and these are CEOs of small, medium, and large companies that haven't had an interest in California. We went back through. We have about 30 right now. We're working with that have serious projects. I mean, obviously, we got a lot of calls from companies and CEOs that just wanted to kind of visit the area on our dime, and we had to kind of weed through some of those opportunities to get down to the companies that really had an interest in expansion. So we've taken that same model. We identified financial services companies and again, the information communication technology companies in Chicago, and we're beginning to develop we did do a kind of an outbound marketing campaign last December when it was nice and cold there, and we're working on that through now and identifying these companies and going out and reaching out to them and several Chicago-based sales missions here in the near future. I talked about what we call our site selection consultants. We continue to engage them, send them information. In fact, we bring them out, probably usually a group of 5 to 10 on a couple different trips. They're inbound FAM tours, we call them executive tours. We bring them out for either the Fiesta Bowl, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. We brought them out for spring training activities and a variety of different events, and we look forward to partnering with you on possibilities to have them come out and see Fountain Hills as well. We have flown them, APS and SRB have worked with us. We've taken them in their helicopters, flown them around the region to showcase the different cities and all the opportunities. It's a whole different look at the area from the air in terms of seeing the possible opportunities and land and buildings, and as well as the potential labor force for a lot of these companies. So we are working to expand our transactional capabilities. About 85% of the clients we work with look for existing building opportunities. By the time we begin working with them with what they can find online nowadays, a lot of times they've done some advanced research. They've already gone through a location process where they weeded out other possible metro areas. By the time they get to us, they're already kind of in that timeline process, and many of them need to be up and operational in a 3 to 6 month time frame, and therefore we see a lot of companies looking at existing properties, and we work with our community building consortium, which is a committee of a lot of the brokerage contacts in the area, development and architectural and so forth, to kind of help us work with the community to work through a lot of those issues. And again, the China we talked about, we continue to bolster that sell into China. Barry Broom, our CEO, along with Mayor Stanton, were recently at the World Economic Forum, and they met with quite a few, national CEOs, and were able to talk a lot about, the aspects of the greater Phoenix community and why that makes sense for their companies. So just currently, we have we had 21 through the end of August. We have September's been a pretty strong month. We've had 15 so far. New prospects in the month of September, almost kind of reaching what we see in July and August. Typically, July and August are a little bit slower months, and as company location teams they're getting their teams back together over the summer months. Our prospects last year were about 215, and continue to work towards that goal again this year. So our goal of jobs is right now on those 21 projects, just if all of them were to locate, we'd have over 2,000 jobs. Our goal is about 4,600 for the year. Again, like I mentioned last year, we saw over 7,600 jobs. We have right now about 8 projects that we see could locate by the end of December that what we consider an 80% location factor. And if those were all to happen, they would employ over 5,500 people in the region. So we've seen some really good projects. As I mentioned, the one that's coming in next week, and I think we'll continue to see that. I did talk about the California 50 and how we rebranded that into California 100. I won't go into detail again. We had over 60 CEOs reach out to us in the first week, and that's why we rebranded our GPEC 100 or California 100 program. And as I mentioned, we're still working with over 30 companies that range anywhere from about 10 employees to up to over 10,000. So. And then lastly, we run a economic impact analysis for communities that are investors. The 5-year trend for your ROI on your investment is 4 to 1. Obviously the companies that locate nearby, a lot of those employees live in other surrounding communities. They may not all live in the community in which they're located. And, for an example also, we just found out today a company that's in telehealth services that's going to employ about 450 people in the Scottsdale Air Park area and hire about 450 people making over $60,000 average wages. I think you'll see some of the benefits from that as well as, those employees, hopefully live and work and play in your community. So, with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
All right, Councilman. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. We receive a lot of your leads for existing space, and I know most of the leads that do come in are fairly larger projects, 10 to 20,000 square feet, and they need something immediate. Having said that, we do have some neat opportunities here, and we're trying to get the word out a little bit better, but what would you be, having been there as long as you have, what's your sweet spot that you're finding? Is it the larger existing vacant shell, 10 to 20,000 that someone needs to be in there 3 to 6 months? Or are there some couture businesses that might fit better in a 3 to 5,000 or 10,000 square foot building or less?
Yeah, I think, thank you for the question. I think that as we continue to develop this emerging technology practice, and we're working with a lot of these smaller kind of ICT and cybersecurity firms, that we're seeing more kind of really small, much smaller type of uses. They could be anywhere from 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, and they're not the 200 job employee type projects. But I would say in the past we have seen much more of the larger projects. I mean, a lot of those tend to come from the consultants that we work with quite frequently, and obviously if you're a 20-person employee operation, you probably aren't going to hire a national brokerage firm like Jones Lang LaSalle or CBRE. So we're seeing more kind of the smaller. In fact, I think that last year we had over 30 projects that were under 25,000 square feet, so we could dig down a little bit deeper and kind of find that other sweet spot. But I think right now we're working with the communities to come out and schedule these community planning meetings and work with your staff and yourselves to kind of really get a better feel for what you have now and how we can help market that much better.
Any questions? Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming out this evening. I appreciate your thorough presentation. You mentioned that there were 33 companies that were placed in 11 cities. I think that was one of your statistics. Do you know if any of those companies were placed in Fountain Hills?
No, they were not.
We've had a lot of discussion as far as I'm not sure if you're aware of, as far as our membership with GPEC, and we're looking at the ROI as well, and we're certainly mindful of somewhat of our limited resources out here, perhaps, that may not necessarily fit to what Councilman Yates just mentioned as far as some of the bigger ones. Are there any, I'm just looking at, in the time that you've been with GPEC, or are there any businesses that you're aware of that GPEC has helped place out in Fountain Hills?
I can't recall one, but again, I think it's a matter of, having the available properties that meet those clients that we're working with and their kind of space needs, so.
And sir, appreciate it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. But having the opportunity to ask you questions because you're here this evening, I'm not, certainly not coming after you or anything like that. But the question that becomes for us is, as far as what is our return on the investment. And I do appreciate what you said when you place a business just down the hill in Scottsdale. Certainly some people may move up here into Fountain Hills. And I guess the question for me and perhaps some of my fellow council members is perhaps we need a little bit more from GPAC, some things that are a little more in tune with what's fit in our community, and recognizing we are at the corner of the county to a degree. But if there's some businesses that would fit that mold because we could certainly use it out here, especially with our circumstance, without a primary property tax and relying so heavily on sales tax and state shared revenue. So certainly having that out here would be helpful. So thank you.
And I think if I can address that question, I think that's what we'd like to kind of get towards in these community planning meetings as well, is come out with members of the council and staff and get a better idea now currently what's available and how we can work through some of those processes. Because it does, as I mentioned, there were, obviously Phoenix gets a large share of location activity. They have, a wide variety of office and industrial projects that are available. So there are obviously 11 out of the 20 or over 10 communities don't have that location activity, and we're trying our best to work with those communities to see how we can continue and encourage these types of activities.
And once again, to dovetail off of what Councilman Elke had mentioned, thank you so much for being here. And GPAC is a very impressive organization with wide reach in China, worldwide, so forth and so on. I also share some of the same concerns. You haven't, and we're not trying to put you on the spot, haven't been able to recall anyone that's located here as a GPAC referral. Frankly, I can't either. But I don't have the data in front of me. So let me go to another place. Can you recall any referrals GPAC has made to Fountain Hills in the last 5 years?
Well, what we call E-Track, about of the 215 or so prospects that we see annually, about 60% are what we call E-Track. So there are companies that ask us to ask the communities for their kind of real estate information.
Okay.
And so I would say that obviously with the space availability in your community, a majority of those you may not have been able to respond to, but at that same time, those are all referrals that came to Fountain Hills and the other communities in the market. So we can go back through and find out how many that you've actually, the town's been able to respond to, and give you a better idea from there. So again, we've had a wide variety of referrals, but they're not all going to meet what the availability and demands of your town.
Sure, and I appreciate that. What I'm hearing you say is there's been probably several referrals, and I know with our previous economic development administrator there were. But we haven't had any hits, so it's a matter of matching and knowing what our capacity is and our capabilities. Do you recall the last time GPAC assessed what our capabilities were in Fountain Hills, or had staff meeting with council or staff out here?
Well, so I know we've certainly been out here since your last economic development administrator was on board, and again, we typically on an annual basis we go out and meet with all the communities, do a thorough investigation. Yeah. So we do have CoStar information in terms of real estate information, but it was probably a year ago when we've actually been out to tour available land and or buildings.
We look forward to your next visit. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're working to schedule that now.
Okay, I think Councilman Yates is anxious to answer the question for you.
Yeah.
You do send us sometimes up to 3 a month, but definitely 1 or 2 referrals a month. And that's why my original question to you about what that sweet spot is, because some of the referrals that you're sending us were like right off. It's like they need something 10 to 15,000 square feet immediately, and it's right there. And now that we have our public sector brokerage working, it's now an easy referral source that we hand off to them to kind of work with you. But to my fellow councilman's point, we do have a sweet spot, but boy, if you look at our demographics and even our location, which I think is an advantage, I think we're just missing, and that's why I'm hoping some of these tech companies that don't need to be right downtown, but can, with our Beeline, we can be at the airport in 20, 25 minutes. Not to sell Fountain Hills to you, but obviously I'm pretty gung-ho.
That's good.
But to my colleagues, we do get the referrals, but it just seems a write-off, or there's a possibility, but because your client's needs, they need something more immediate, and that's what we're not quite. But as far as cost per square foot, it's lease rate, I'd put us against anybody in the valley. We've got a lot of value here, so I'm sure we'll talk again in the.
Well, I think I think we'd like to come out and talk about that process a little bit more in depth in terms of if you feel like you're just off. I mean, there may be I think those are the types of opportunities we could still put in the mix, and have those kind of companies. They may tell us a range in terms of what kind of building they're looking for, but if you're just off, I think we need to kind of have some further discussions with you on, because I think, a lot of companies say they may need 10,000, but maybe they only need 5 to start, and then get a better feel for you on if they were to do that, how would they grow long term? Because obviously they're going to look at that. So,
Madam Mayor, along those points, we are a niche market, but if you find that right niche of companies, I know a building right now you can buy for $20. $30 a square foot on a main thoroughfare that's zoned correctly, 7,800 square feet. I mean, there's some great opportunities. We're just waiting for the right market mix. So yeah, we look forward to working with you in the future.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming out.
All right. Thank you very much.
for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing you again.
All right. Perfect.
All right. That was a long time before we get to call to the public. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, we have 2 cards. Linda Bordeaux, followed by Lena Belliner.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, council members. I have a couple of comments. I know that the water company can't answer what I'm going to say. I'm going to thank you, Councilmember Yates, for bringing up the questions that you did, because those were some of the ones that I had too. First question, how did Chaparral Water get so negligent? How did we have people putting screws in holes trying to block things? Where were the oversight people? Who's in charge of oversight now? What did the supervisor say? Did you go fix that pipe? Yeah, I put a screw in it. I mean, how did they account for that? It doesn't make any sense. And I would like to know the answer to who's going to be accountable for oversight. And I especially want to know that since it seems what Councilmember Yates has said struck me particularly. This is a public company, but not quite, because the Water and Ice Store is a private water company. You go in there, you buy their water. These people have the pipes that go to everybody's house. So they've got us hostage in a way. Okay, so I don't think they did their due diligence either. Why don't they have competent people on their staff that go out and assess water companies before they're purchasing them? And why in the world would they hire a company that's already in a working relationship with Chaparral Water to go and assess the faulty Chaparral Water to then give them this is a great buy. Go for it. That didn't make any sense to me. Couple other points. Our CAP, which is the Central Arizona Project, rates have gone up on our property taxes. I encourage everyone at home to check out your property taxes. They've gone up, I want to say it was 40%, but it could be a little bit less. It was a while since I looked. This company here is looking to raise our rates. Yes, I know it's been since 2006 since they've done so, but they're looking to raise them 37%. That's a lot of money when you combine the two together. And some of the reasons that they were giving to use our rates kind of seemed, I don't know, one of them was incredulous to me. They are accusing us of conserving water. We're a desert community, so they're going to raise money because we're being smart and conserving water. So do we let our water run freely and pay it there, or do we conserve water and try to protect our desert and our landscape, and they're just going to charge us more? I was surprised by that answer. The other thing that surprised me was he cited the Affordable Care Act as being one of the reasons that their costs are going through the roof. Well, now that it's the law of the land and they're coming after us for our taxes, why don't they move their folks to the exchanges? They're open. What else did I want to say? I just took a few bullet items. I think that's it. I'm sure something else will come to me when I sit down, but I really would like an answer on who's doing oversight on the water company, and does it make sense for us to own our own water, to have our own public works water? That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks. It looks like the representatives from EPCOR are still here, so perhaps you could get some of your questions answered directly from them. Okay? And now, Lena Belliner.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Kavanaugh. My name is Lena Belliner, and my address is 16301 East Jackson Drive. Pardon me? Okay. I live in Fountain Hill. I'm here this evening to object to EPCOR's request for a rate increase and to encourage any resident that is concerned as I am about these increases to come forward and become involved. During the last billing cycle of August 22nd through September 23rd, our home was billed for 61,000 gallons of water at a cost of $245.74. During that period, only one member was in the home, the other was hospitalized. The previous billing was 1,000 gallons of water at a cost of $210.30. High water bills are not new to us, unfortunately, and we've been complaining for many, many years. We had the meter changed out several years ago, toilets fixed, pool levers changed out, new sprinkler systems. We hired a leak detection company as recently as today. Yet nothing has changed, and the water bills continue to skyrocket, and now we're being asked for a rate increase. I'm sorry, I can't stomach that. I've been told to have the meter changed out again and have it tested, yet if it's found to be running properly, it's going to cost me $35. I don't understand that logic. Today, after returning home from a doctor appointment, we decided to check the testing meter that they installed 2 days ago. It was covered with water and the surrounding area was wet. I opened up the neighbor's water box and his area was bone dry. I called EPCOR, told the customer service rep, Terry, who I have had several conversations with, and I would think that she'd know me by my first name by now. And she told me I needed a new meter. Well, I was like flabbergasted. It's like, wait a minute, you just installed a test meter at my home. Are you not aware of this? Finally, the rep drove out to the house and looked at the test meter and said there was nothing wrong, but yet the meter was moving. Yet no one was inside the house. Nobody was using any water whatsoever. Something is terribly wrong, and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Deb Burrell, the previous owner, told me that our bills were high because the water needed to be pumped up the hill. Yet the new owners say this is not true. And during the presentation today, Mr. McGee said something to that effect about the water pressure being used to pump water up the hill. Somehow I do believe that it affects me. We filed a previous complaint with the Arizona Corporation Commission, and I'm going to do the same now. I encourage all residents to do the same if they are concerned about their water bills as I am. And if they want to contact me, I can be reached at Detroit_Michigan@cox.net. I read the article about the rate increases, and the reasons are simply not justifiable. Mr. McGee stated that the water rates are determined upfront based on past customer use, and declining demand and more efficient water-using appliances have had an impact on revenue. So that means that because I can serve, I'm being punished with a rate increase. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So I would appreciate that anyone who's interested, please call me so that we can become involved and help to oppose this rate increase. Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, thank you. Well, our EPCOR representatives are still here, so I hope you're taking notes. Okay, good. All right, we are up to our consent agenda items, and I have 5 items to read. Consideration of approving the town council meeting minutes from September 19, 2013. Consideration of approving resolution 2013-49, abandoning whatever right, title, or interest the town has in portions of the certain public utility and drainage easements located at 15722 East Sawyer Drive. Consideration of a condominium flat abandonment for Kramer Condominiums at 17132 East Salida Drive. Consideration of approving a special event liquor license application submitted by the American Legion Auxiliary Fountain Hills Unit 58, Incorporated, for the purpose of a fundraiser event scheduled for November 8 to 10, 2013. And consideration of approving a special event liquor license application submitted by the American Legion Post 58 for the purpose of a fundraiser event scheduled November 8 to 10, 2013. I have a motion to accept the, and a second, and a roll call, please.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson? Councilmember Lejay?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Elke?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
And Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Mayor 6-0.
For regular agenda items, the first is consideration of approving the Second Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with Arizona Business Advisors to revise the scope of work relating to funding of the Business Startup Program.
Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, again, the council approved a professional services agreement with the Arizona Business Advisors back in June during the budget process to provide a business incubator program designed for the development of entrepreneurship in businesses within the community. The scope called for business advisors to obtain partnership funding from the Chamber of Commerce as well as some private entities. And subsequent to that, the Chamber pulled their funding. What you have before you is an amendment that allows for a private business to fund that amount of money of $4,500, of which we have a matching of $4,500 for this incubator program. You have that for consideration tonight. It's my recommendation to approve the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Are there any speaker cards on this item?
No, Mayor.
Council discussion? Council discussion? Councilman Elke?
Ken, do we know if there's another business that's volunteered to pay that?
Yes, in your packet there is a letter from Business Alliance, Brokers Alliance, that will that has agreed to fund that.
Has the Chamber given any information as to why they ceased funding?
No.
Any other comments? Yes?
Mayor, I had a question of our town attorney, if I may.
Sure.
Andrew, I have a question. Could you let me know if it's appropriate or if it's outside the context of the agenda item? During our budget process, I think one of the reasons why a number of us voted on some of these contracts was that there was other partnerships out there, i.e. the Chamber was partnering with Jumpstart, which gave them the capital they needed to do their work. Do we know of any other similar situations where the Chamber of Commerce may be declining to provide funding, that during the budget discussion they stated that they would be funding, for example, $20,000 for tourism? Do we know if they will be declining to fund that, or if they will be funding that?
Madam Mayor, Councilman Lejay, I'm not aware of any subsequent items like that. It's probably a bit beyond the scope of this agreement, because in terms of this agreement, the only change is to the funding source, but certainly make you aware if we become aware of those different situations.
Thank you. I just think we should be mindful of that as we move forward. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. And then I guess a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I move to approve the Second Amendment to the Professional Service Agreements between the Town of Fountain Hills and Arizona Business Advisors.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor 6-0.
All right. Number 7, do you have anything else for us?
Nothing,
Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
You're adjourned. Hi.